But welcome everyone to 1 Million Cups Eau Claire. 1 Million Cups is a national movement founded by the Kauffman Foundation to support entrepreneurship of all sorts. So at 1 Million Cups Eau Claire, you will hear from entrepreneurs that are in concept phase all the way to established businesses that are just making a change in their business plan and making some other decisions and going a different route. So today, we have Joe and Cole Caldwell with Sentry Health Kiosk. So I will kick it over to those two and they can tell us what they're all about.
All right, good morning, guys. So we are a company that's been in business for 9 years, and we've spent about $55 million to date building some award-winning technology in the parking space, we weren't playing on a global pandemic 9 years ago when we started out our business. So we have taken our parking kiosk and we've converted it into a health kiosk. And just to kind of give you an idea of a lot of the stories I'm going to talk about have to do with parking, but it's how do you leverage $55 million worth of R&D that you did in one industry and flip it over to a completely different industry. And then when you do, you're 100 miles ahead of them instantly, because all of these guys are trying to get into this space right now are 90 days old, where we're 9 years old. So we have a lot going for us. So it's kind of like, when you start the race, if you're already 2 laps ahead, you should win. And so far that's proven out for us. So let's first talk about, what we started and kind of where it went. So we invented a parking kiosk that writes parking tickets by itself. It doesn't need a human walking up and down the streets to put tickets under windshields. So how do you take something like that and now convert it? So the last installation we did was a town called Flint, Michigan. To give you an idea how effective our technology is, right before COVID, we had taken them from making $14,000 per month in the town on their parking business to $240,000 a month. We almost 20x'd their revenue. So, but COVID hit, and guess what? There is no parking in Michigan anymore. So it doesn't exist. Parking revenue is down 95% in the city of Flint. And that's across the board, no matter, our technology runs from Canada to Israel. It doesn't matter where you're at on the planet right now. Parking is down 90+%. We are seeing it come up now in New Orleans over the last few weeks, but for the most part, it's pretty much shut down. So let me just kind of show you what we built and how that kind of moved from there to this. So this is our parking kiosk, and if you look really, really close on it, it has a microphone, a camera, and a speaker. And now down below it has a touch screen. Well, guess what? Touch screens died about 60 days ago. Those don't exist. No one's going to touch a touch screen for the rest of their lives. So, but anyway, you can touch it, and then it speaks multiple different languages, like 30. This one's set up for Spanish and Portuguese. And then right down below is a place that you put all the money, like coins and loonies and toonies or whatever. And then down below that is the credit card reader. But where all the magic happens in this is actually the back of it. So the back of it has 3 cameras here, and then 3 infrared lights here. And so what it does is when you pull up to it, it takes a picture of your car, it starts a stopwatch, it gives you 5 minutes to get out of your car and pay it. And if you don't, it mails a ticket for you. It looks up your license plate with the state's DMV. It knows you're Bill Smith, you live at this address, and Merry Christmas, here comes a parking ticket. So in September of last year, we decided we're going to remake the outside design for various different reasons. And if you've had a chance to go to Sentry Health .life, SENTRY health.life, you'll see our health kiosk, okay? And what we did is it looks very similar to what I'm about to show you. So this is our new parking kiosk. So we started building this in September, and what you have, I'm going to get close to it in a minute, but the problem is every time you walk up to it, it takes your temperature, and it drives me crazy after 1,000 times. So if you look at it, you have the same screen that was in the other one. You have the same camera, microphone, and speaker set up, but what's been added is an IR thermometer. And then right below it is the 2 little black outlines. You can see that, and that's where the coin acceptor went and the credit card reader. And then down below that is this gigantic big hole. And that big hole that was our coin vault, and it held $400 worth of quarters. And we took it out and we put in a hand sanitizing system made by Ecolab. Now, this was our very first prototype. It does, if you're looking at our website now, it doesn't look exactly like the one that's on our website. That will be here in this Saturday. So we'll have the new case for that. So let me show you what happens when you walk up to it. Here's what happens. Here we go. So I'll put the phone in front of me. When you walk up to it, it's going to, if you guys can see me, it will, well, it's giving me some headline news for the day. And it will, there's my temperature. It's 97 degrees. And then it will ask me to hand sanitize. So I come down here, hand sanitizer comes out, and then it gives me a happy face. Now, what it does really though, is it opens the door to your office. So your office door won't even open unless you do that. So it's tied into the office door system. It also has facial recognition on it. So we currently do facial recognition now at the US border with our parking kiosk up near Vancouver. So we've been able to leverage that technology. We are a platform, if you kind of look at it this way. In Israel, for example, we have technology embedded inside of our parking kiosk that smells for chemical weapons. So if we can smell for chemical weapons, I promise you we can take your temperature accurately, right? So we use a medical grade thermometer made by a Belgian company that is the same thermometer if you went down to Eau Claire's hospital and got your temperature taken. It's the same thermometer. It's an IR medical grade thermometer. But the big difference is this: taking someone's temperature to go back to work or to go into a building is honestly kind of ridiculous, considering a couple pieces of known facts that we know now about COVID. And what we know now about COVID, and I knew this when I started this, is that 96%, that's a big number, 96% of everyone that has COVID-19 is asymptomatic, meaning they never run a temperature. They feel like $1 million, but they're just as contagious as someone who's sitting in the ICU on a respirator right now. So the number one thing, according to the CDC's website, on how to stop the spread of COVID-19 is actually stuff your mama taught you when you were little, and that's wash your hands. So this thing forces you to wash your hands. There's an optical eye in there that knows that you hand sanitized. So how do we tie this into a business or a place of work or whatever to make the place safer? Well, we use a lot of different technologies. What companies are doing now is very unsafe. They have people standing there with thermometers and in one hand a bottle of hand sanitizer in the other, and they put that person's job in danger. There is not enough money in the world you could pay me to do that job. So if you look at the meat plants, processing plants down in Iowa and stuff, where 70% of the people that worked in the plant had COVID, what they figured out is that they actually got it from the person taking the temperatures, because everyone saw that one person, and that person saw everyone. So having a human do this is not a wise idea. So using technology is. So our technology also has facial recognition. So it can be plugged into your place of work, and also into your HR system. So for example, Bill Smith comes up to the kiosk. We know that Bill reports to Mary. Mary's his boss, and his temperature is 102.7. We can immediately do a video conference call with Mary, Bill's boss, and she can talk to him and say, hey, Bill, go home and take the day off. Or we can be plugged into your HR system and say, you've got 13 sick days left, go home and take one. We also support QR codes, and that's another thing we leverage from parking. So in parking, for example, let's say you owned a store and I came in and bought $1,000 worth of clothes, you can give me a QR code for free parking, and I can go and put it on the kiosk, and it puts the money back on my credit card and charges your store. So we can now use that QR code to do polling. So if you come to the kiosk, you don't want to touch the touch screen, you just scan the QR code and answer the health questionnaire there. Or our facial recognition technology can tell whether you go like this or like this. So if you say if you've had a high temperature in the last 14 days, you can go like this, and the answer is no. Have you been around anyone with COVID-19 in the last 14 days? You can go like this. So you don't have to touch the touch screen. The other thing you can do, like in a campus setting where, we're currently talking to a lot of colleges. We've had some colleges that have signed up. They don't want to have their students go through this 5 or 6 times a day. If they're leaving the math building, going to the science building, over to the arts building, they don't, even though I invented this, it's rigmarole. And I mean, how would you imagine if you had to go through this rigmarole 5 or 6 times a day? It would get old quick. So you get a QR code off the machine in the morning that said you had a good temperature and that you hand sanitized. You now flash that QR code to the security door, to the camera, and it just opens up to your next building. You don't have to go through this again. Or this can talk to a printer and print out a nice little blue sticker for Friday and a red sticker for Saturday that has your face on it and your date that you did it. So you can just look for folks with stickers on it. The other thing it does is we go back to work and we start opening businesses up. They're being limited on how many folks can be in a store, like a restaurant or something like that. Well, we built some technology 4 years ago that counts people. So let me explain how this works. We make our money off advertising on the parking kiosk. So if you're McDonald's, we can tell you how many people walked by on the street while your ad was running. So we go to McDonald's and say, look, while your ad was up last week, 2,000 people walked by, because we have technology that counts people walking in both directions. And if they stop in front of the ad for more than 6 seconds, we can say, and oh, by the way, 900 people looked at your ad. We currently do that. We've done that for 4 years. How do we take that technology and put it into getting America, getting the world back to work? Well, we also wrote technology that you can download from the App Store that will tell you how many cars are in a parking lot. So we're going to smush those two together. And now what happens is this. You put one of these kiosks in the front of your Home Depot or whatever, and then you have a small camera on the outbound door that counts everyone running our software, that counts everyone leaving, and keep a running total. So if you're only allowed to have 200 people in Home Depot, you don't need to have 2 employees at every door with clickers and walkie-talkies saying, okay, let Bill in because Jim just left. You're putting those people in harm's way. So this can do it all by itself. So there's a lot of things that we also do. And this is getting into the big data stuff that we do. So imagine that and this is how it applies for parking, how it can apply for health. So we're really a software company. That's what we do. There's 35 people that work here, but 27 of them are software engineers. And so we wrote some crazy technology when it comes to parking. Let me explain this to you. So let's say that you ran the parking for Flint, Michigan, our newest client, and you wanted to know how many people parked on your streets from 7 a.m. to 7:30. For the last 30, in that 30-minute time frame, you want to know how many people parked there. Well, we can tell you, look, 500 people parked in that 30-minute period. And you're like, great. I only want to know about blue cars. And we're like, really, blue cars? Yeah, just blue cars. We can say, okay, well, out of the 500 cars that parked, 80 of them were blue cars. And you say, okay, awesome. How many of those blue cars stayed less than 7 minutes? We're like, less than 7 minutes? Okay, 20 of them did. Like, okay, how many of them were made by Toyota Corporation? I said, you only want blue Toyotas that stayed less than 7 minutes? They're like, yeah, we only want that. And we say, okay, well, there was 8 of them. And you say, okay, I only want Toyota Corollas. We're like, Toyota Corollas? Okay. Well, there was 4 Toyota Corollas. You say, well, I only want 1989 Toyota Corollas. And you say, okay, well, there's 1. And they parked at this spot, and they stayed 4 minutes. And their license plate number is blah, 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 blah. And the owner is Bill Smith. And here's his address. So you can see how we're used to solve crimes all the time. Okay. Just 3 weeks ago in New Orleans, we were used to solve a hit and run. They were looking for a Georgia plate on a Dodge Charger model number. And we're like, you mean this one? They're like, yeah, exactly, that one. So how do you apply all that big data and now run it over to health kiosk? Well, let's just say that you had 100 locations and you're now trying to figure out, how are you trending? Are temperatures going up over the last 2 weeks? Are they going down? Is people healthier than they were? Can I talk to my HR system and figure all this out? Can I plug it into the temperatures? Yeah, you can do all that. So you can no one has to tell you that there's an outbreak happening in Stockton, California. You will see it way before anyone else does because you're dealing with real live data. So these are the things that you can do with it. And this a lot more we could talk to about for another hour. But what it's doing is just taking what you built, leveraging it to do something else, and actually going into a market. And now we're dominating the market. I mean, we're like the Cadillac of this stuff. So, so there you go. That's how we took a parking meter and turned it into a health kiosk. Any questions?
So if you want to open up that participants tab and hit the raise your hand button if you've got any questions for Joe. Such an interesting product, such a cool pivot of what you were doing with the parking kiosk and turning it into something completely different and so relevant for now.
Yeah.
Becca has her hand up.
I should catch on to the Zoom thing pretty soon. I'm wondering how long each transaction takes. Is there going to be a big backlog of people?
3 seconds.
That's really fast.
Yeah.
Fantastic. There's no complaints of like people the bigger places want 2 or 3 kiosks.
Sure. Yeah. No, like cruise lines and things like that. They bought multiple ones. Yeah, because you're moving a big group of people through quickly, right? But if you kind of look at the cruise line situation, if you've ever been on a cruise, they make you go through a metal detector. So they're used to screening the crap out of everyone, right, before they're allowed back on the ship. But we've talked to the NBA and NFL teams and all this kind of stuff too, where they're looking to put lots of these in, right? And it can also talk to your turnstile. So you have your Vikings ticket in your hand, and the turnstile won't turn, even though unless you've washed your hands, right? Being able to lock it down. So now you're sitting in the US Bank Stadium, everyone in there had a great temperature, but more importantly, that everyone washed their stinky hands before they came in there and brought stuff in there with them. That's the most important part.
Okay, I love it. Great job.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hey, Joe, could you speak to how it communicates with the physical doors? I'm just curious for a collab standpoint.
It can do it with a 2-wire connection. It can also have an HID 2-wire connection, just simply like we have parking lot technology where we're open gates that go up and down and big garage doors that go up and down. So it's the same concept, right? It's either a simple 2-wire connection that just triggers it, or we can talk to your HID card reader and make your card active or whatever. There's about 3 different ways to skin that cat.
Excellent. And then for the system itself, does it store health data, and how does that work to store it securely?
Well, the answer to that is complicated, and it depends on what country you're in. Okay, like Saudi Arabia, they want to store all the data. Okay, but so we sold guys in Saudi Arabia. We just sold last night to Sri Lanka, right? Yeah, they want to hold on that data. But let's talk about the United States. Okay, you get this dirty word called HIPAA, right? Which you have to. So what we can do that if we're not in the business of setting rules. The companies or end users set those rules, so they have to be compliant. Like right now, we store all the video footage everyone comes across the U.S. border out of in Canada on the Vancouver border. Well, do you think we actually got permission? I mean, we didn't do that on our own. Do you think that maybe the government maybe gave us permission to do it, and so we're doing it on their behalf, right? So if we're doing it on the behalf of someone, it's on them. But I can tell you that most companies are not storing temperature data. They're just storing happy faces and frowny faces. So we don't, like when that just popped up on the screen and gave me my temperature, we didn't have to do that. We could just brought a little happy face up, you know what I mean? And so the guy behind you doesn't see your temperature. Like if you're concerned that, well, there's someone standing behind me, I didn't want them to see I have 102-degree temperature, you know what I mean? And are you guys also familiar? Okay, so there's a company in Mexico that bought them from us. They have 50,000 employees. Well, obviously they don't have HIPAA, okay? And they have different rules than we have here. And they force their employees to do 2 things before they come to work currently. This is without us. This is on their own. They make you take a health questionnaire every morning before you show up for work. And this is one of the top 10 biggest companies in Mexico. They make you do that. And now they're going to add a QR code to that, but you just show the QR code in front of our kiosk. So now we know your name's Jose, for example, okay? We know that you filled out the health questionnaire because we have the QR code that proves it. What they want now is to take Jose's temperature and plumb it back through the other direction, okay? Because they also make Jose use contact management tracing. So we know Jose has been in front of Juan in the last 72 and John in the last 72 hours and Bill in the last 72 hours. So if Jose's temperature is 103.6, they're able to go talk to Juan and John and Mary and say, wait a minute, you guys have been hanging out with Jose these last 3 days, right? And so we can go the other direction too. Follow me?
Excellent. Super interesting. Anne.
So first of all, thank you, Joe, for being here today and talking to us. It's wonderful to have something that's on the cutting edge and so current with what we're all dealing with. So we appreciate that. I'm just thinking about how a comment you made about how this is sort of the Cadillac of what's out there right now.
Yeah, sure.
And so I'm just wondering about kind of I can see that a large company and things like that would be maybe your target customer or government.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd love to hear from you, like who is your target customer and is there any, is it cost effective for smaller businesses and where is that sort of?
So on a lead, it works out to about $385 a month. So can a small company afford $385 a month to do this? So you have to ask yourself that, okay? If you answer that yes to that, then you figure out who my customer base was. And that is everyone's bought. Everything from the Fortune 10 companies, the biggest companies on planet Earth, down to Billy Bob's Bait and Tackle, right? People who are concerned about, a lot of it's concerned about perception, meaning you want people to come to your restaurant, right? And now they're not coming. Your restaurant just opened up. It's allowed. I mean, I was just at a restaurant in Wayzata. They're allowed to have 50 people there now. So it used to be packed at lunch. I was there yesterday. There was 8 people, okay? Because the other folks are just scared to go, right? And so, but now this restaurant is putting this in because to give the other 42 people didn't show up confidence that everything's okay here. You know what I mean? And so is it worth the $380 a month? For them, the answer is yes. Okay. But one of the biggest reasons, and this is the truth, this is the absolute truth. The reason that companies put this in is not to make their employees safer. I promise you it's not it. Okay. I've talked to hundreds. It's actually to protect themselves in a wrongful death lawsuit. Okay. That's the facts. And we have been taken to court in the last 7 years, probably 10,000. I'm not even exaggerating, at least 10,000 times. And we have won every single time. And you're like, well, why in the world have you been taken to court 10,000 times? Great question. What do we do for a living? We write people parking tickets. Okay. And they get these tickets in the mail and they're like, I can't believe that dumb machine gave me a ticket. I was only there 5 minutes, is what they tell the judge. So they run into court going, Judge, I thought these things had a 5-minute grace period. The judge goes, they do. The guy goes, well, I was only there 5 minutes. And the guy goes, well, the judge goes, let me see your ticket number. And the judge puts his ticket number into his little laptop. He goes, do you have a white Ford Bronco? The guy goes, yeah, that's my car, a white Ford Bronco. He goes, how many minutes? Just 5, Judge. He's like, that's interesting. I have a 2.5-hour movie of your car sitting here. Would you like to watch it? We go get some popcorn. We'll make some popcorn. We'll watch it for 2.5 hours. We've never lost. In all those 10,000 times we've been taken to court, we've never, ever lost because we don't take a picture of your car. We actually run a movie of your car, okay? So getting back to covering your butt, I'm going to be able to give an employer who gets sued by when someone passes away, the family goes after the person with the biggest checkbook. Is what they do, okay? And usually it's where they work. So the employer is able to walk into work and say, or walk into court and say, look, everyone in my entire facility had a temperature of under 100.4, and every single person that came into that facility had to hand sanitize their hands, or the door physically wouldn't open to my building, okay? And have all the data and proof to back that up. which you can't go into court and say, well, I had Jim with a thermometer at the front door and Susie with a bottle of hand sanitizer, and I promise you, Judge, we got everybody. That's not admissible. So anyway, those are getting into who can't get one, I guess, is a better question. So
Yeah, thank you. Just a quick
yeah.
follow-up question. So as small businesses need to pivot and do something different, has that been a challenge for you and your company in terms of now you have a kind of different set of customers or target customers, or are you finding all those connections and current customers from the parking meter industry?
Yeah, so we actually had a lot of cities that use our parking kiosks who trust us have actually bought our health kiosks for city halls, right? So we've had that happen, right? But we're seeing, just, you guys want some good news? Parking's up. Parking traffic is up 15% week over the last 2 weeks. So the world's starting to turn back on. So for all of you that are hiding in your house right now, some of us are starting to get back out into the world, right? So you're starting to see this. So we hope by the end of August that we're kind of back to normal in a way, as much as we can be. But we are definitely going after two different clients, and we're going after them two different ways. So in the parking business, we sell direct to government. Government is our partner. We partner with government, and we're tied into DMVs. And here's the other thing is the parking kiosk can automatically tow your car. So if you drive up to it and you haven't paid your last 3 parking tickets, it will call a tow truck by itself to come get your car. So we're tied into the back end, the judge type systems. So, but in this route, we don't, we don't sell direct. We sell to systems integrators. These are the companies that handle the security system at the school, that handle the security cameras at the school, that handle that type of stuff, the HID card readers that you walk around with the fobs to get into work and all that. Those are our partners because they control the access. And this becomes like an access control type system. So 2 different ways to market.
Awesome. In the chat, we had a question from Elaine. What's the feedback been on the facial recognition part of the product from a privacy aspect?
Elaine, it doesn't have to be turned on. It obviously wouldn't be turned on at Billy's Bait and Tackle restaurant. You know what I mean? That would be at corporate America. Okay. And just a heads up, they already have a picture of you in the HR system. Okay. They already have a video when you walk into work anyway on you. So that's not an issue. The other thing that with this system, it can also tell whether you're wearing a mask or not. So if you have a requirement that inside your facility everyone has to have a mask on, it can let you know if that person's wearing a mask or not. And if they're not wearing a mask, it won't let them in. It can even go as far as knowing whether you have an N95 mask on versus a non-N95 mask. And how that works is I see a lot of people running around with masks on like everywhere you go, but I would think maybe only 10% of them are N95. Most of them look like something their grandkid made for them and they just slapped it on their face and they run into a store. So if you have a requirement that someone has an N95 mask on at your facility, and let's say you have standardized on a mask made by 3M Corporation, then what we do is when we do the facial recognition, we look at your face and we look for the 3M logo on your face. And if we see the 3M logo on your face, we know you're wearing their N95 mask, and therefore we can let you in. So it can get even as detailed as that.
Excellent. There are no hands raised in the participants tab at the moment, so feel free to pop any questions that you have in the chat. I see that Cole also is responding to some questions. So Brooke asked about your company is Minnetonka based and you manufacture products in Winona, Tennessee, and Florida. And then turnaround time to receive units is about 9 weeks for orders of 100 or more and 4 weeks for orders that are less than 100. So
yeah. There you go. That's the answer.
Yes. All right. Emily in the chat just asked, so where do you go from here?
Well, hopefully, Emily, we go back to normal, because I'm very happy to get out of this business tomorrow if we can all go back to normal. I think we're coming into a very sad change in the world. And I mean, even though I invented this, I wish we didn't have to. And, you know, I grew up as a child not having to wear a bicycle helmet. And some of you that are my age know what I mean. We never wore bike helmets. And if you did, the neighbor kid would have probably beat you up. Okay. But a lot of the younger generation, you know, grew up wearing seatbelts and having to wear bike helmets and a million other things. And I think, unfortunately, your generation's in trouble, meaning I don't think that you'll ever walk into a building ever again for the rest of your lives without having to take your temperature and without having to hand sanitize. And I think it's sad, but so I think we're here. This is here to stay, Emily, even though I wish it wasn't. I wish we could go back to where we were, like, you know, 10 weeks ago. So, so anyway, that's, and we keep, you know, we're going to keep rolling with our parking technology, and we, you know, we have other things too. Our best selling product, I didn't even show you. It's this right here. You guys see this little guy here? Okay. So what that is, that's for all you naughty people that park in front of fire hydrants. It will give you a ticket. So if you park in front of it, and we sell more than those than anything. The people that park in handicap spots who are not handicapped, people who park in fire lanes that there's not a fire truck, right? People who park in crosswalks. And like, this is a crosswalk one. So you see this right here. This is actually that pole that you push the button on to go to the crosswalk. Well, what happens is you have idiots that park in front of crosswalks, and when they do, people in wheelchairs have no way of crossing because they can't get their wheelchair over the big curb. You and I can walk over it, but they can't. And goofballs park their cars there. So inside that is actually cameras and a computer, and it gives you a ticket. So we're into other kinds of safety things than just taking people's temperatures.
Awesome. Becca.
Yeah, can you talk to us about how you're doing your marketing to get this out to municipalities and other big corporations and things?
Sure. We are one of Hill & Knowlton's customers. Hill & Knowlton is the biggest PR firm on planet Earth. They're on the London Stock Exchange. I mean, we were able to get a deal with them. I mean, just to hire Hill & Knowlton costs anyone, you can go try it. It costs you $10 million to hire them. Hill & Knowlton is Facebook's PR firm, AT&T, Exxon, Ford, GE. So when we announced this, we got pretty much picked up in every newspaper in the world, right? I mean, just like bam, because it was Hill & Knowlton that did the announcement. And so we're about to do a big television push with Hill & Knowlton here as soon as the real kiosk comes in this weekend, right? The one that looks like the website. And we're going to be shooting a professional movie with, like, you know, lights, cameras, staging, sound people, like the whole enchilada, like a movie with this being used here at Carlson Towers on 394. And so then we use that, and then what Hill & Knowlton do, then we'll get it on the nightly news and get it in front of, you know, it'll be on the Wall Street Journal and all these different things. And so that's what we're doing. We also use currently Google AdWords in a very niche format. We also did email campaigns out to the VAR channel. We identified about 650 potential partners or resellers around the world and have been targeting them very specifically. And we've also went out in the world. If you type in temperature kiosk into Google, we should come up there somewhere, right? So it just, I guess, different things, right? We sent out an email to every president of every college in America, 7,000 of them yesterday, about this technology. We sent out an email to every superintendent of schools a couple of days ago. I mean, we've had tons of school districts buy this from us. So, and the other thing is it's FEMA eligible, meaning that if you're a school and you buy these things, the federal government will reimburse you. So they're free for you.
Okay, great.
Awesome. So, Joe, we always ask the final question of our presenters as what can we as a community do for you?
Stay safe. I think we're good. So I think get life back to normal so we don't need these things. So
Excellent. Brooke has one more question here.
Joe, my head is like exploding listening to this because I'm not a technical person by any means. So thank you for sharing your knowledge with us. I guess I'm just curious what the pivot time was to go from parking meters to health kiosks. Like, was the health kiosk already in play, or did you totally pivot and just boom, it was there?
I did it, honestly. I came up with the idea of driving it in my car, and 5 minutes later, I pivoted the company in that direction. I called everyone and I said, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do this, this, and this. And since I'm the guy in charge, that's what we did. So,
I mean, so why do you think, like, and this is probably a conversation for another day, but, you know, they were talking ventilators and the turnaround time for ventilators, and it was going to take so long to get these. And it's like, you just 5 minutes, you're like, here's what we're going to do. And you did it.
because I was already 95% of the way there.
Okay.
So all I had to do was add a thermometer, right? And all I had to do was already take an existing Ecolab or Perel, or there's 50 of them, hand sanitizing system, and then just slap it in there, right, with a wrench, okay? So, and then put an optical eye in there to make sure that your hands went in there. That was pretty simple. If I would have had to start this from scratch, you got to remember it took us 2 years and about $11 million just to build the first kiosk, okay? And so now we spent, $55 million, right? And so all we had to do was add that. We've already added sensors. Like I said earlier, in Israel, for example, we've added sensors that smell for chemical weapons. We're about to add one that smells for plastic explosives. We don't make those technologies. We don't make a sniffer for chemical weapons or what, but other people do, right? And we have room for it in there. And if you open it up, it's just a big Intel computer running in there, right? And so you can add anything to it. I mean, this thing would you could put a George Foreman grill in here and make yourself a cheeseburger if you wanted to, right? I mean, it's just, it's just a platform, right?
We're also ADA compliant as well.
Yeah, we're also ADA compliant. So it's and let me just kind of address Cole's thing right here. So in parking in the United States, you have to be ADA compliant. So I'm 6 foot tall. So I just want to show you, this is ADA height. The problem with ADA height for a lot of people is it's just too short. So you would have to squish all the way down here to get your temperature taken. Well, do you remember how I said this? We started this in September to be the replacement of this. Well, here's a little Hollywood movie magic. They're the same height. We just have it sitting down here on a box. You guys see that? So the new ones that come Saturday are actually 6 feet tall, but they have 2 thermometers in them. One at like someone from about 5'2" to like 7'2", and then little kid height to wheelchair height, right? So they're actually 2 different levels. So, and we put an FDA thermometer in here too. So, I mean, it's the same. It's made out of in Belgium. It's amazing technology. We did not go thermal. We're not get too technical, but we can get really technical. We didn't use the thermal camera because they don't work that well. We went with a thermometer. And you just got to ask yourself this: if you went to the hospital right now, would they put a thermal camera on your head or a thermometer? And if you said thermometer, you win the gold prize. Okay, ding ding. They don't put thermal cameras on your face because they're not accurate. So these other guys out here that make, we talked about competition. These other guys out there that basically took an Android and thermal camera, they really just aren't accurate. So this actually has an IR thermometer in it. Yeah. Any other questions?
Doesn't look like we have any other hands raised or anything, But so thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for your time. Okay. And have a great day. Stay safe. And we'll talk to you later. All right. Bye-bye.